welcome to Josef's Model Railway and Toy Room. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Just a little bit of housekeeping. You don't need to like, follow, or subscribe to any of the videos I put out there. Just put them out there where I can. Have a holly jolly great time doing so. Now, today's video, we can get the lights on. We can start getting quite excited because it's all starting to get serious now with this model railway. We come back to our beloved Fiddle yard that we've been working on. So we're now going to be able to take everything from the main section of the layout, and we can store everything down upon the Fiddle yard. As you've seen in some earlier videos, we've done the plan for it, and we laid down some of the foam base and then covered it up with this wonderful green material. And we've just got this, what looks like this lush green carpet that you may have seen somewhere else before. Not quite as messy, although. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the DCC Concepts Power base system. As we've discussed before, we've got a tremendous level to work out the inclination. We don't need to get too bogged down with that. That's going to come up later on when we talk more about our track laying. So let's check all that out. What is this? Basically, it's a packet containing a series of thin metal shims and some high-powered magnets, the sort of neodymium ones or whatever they're called, that you can attach. And you can get different ones, but you'd attach them on some of your locomotives in key spots, and what it'll do is it'll help with the magnetical pull underneath the track to sort of hold it down for better traction without affecting the engine and other things like that, without affecting the motor of your locomotive and wearing it out with unnecessary forces in the wrong direction. At least that's what I'm led to believe. For the most part, there are other videos that cover this, so please do check them out. But I might just be touching on a few different things on what they're doing that apply to my layout and what I'm up to here. Right, let's swing this camera around and you can really appreciate it is a total mess. But also, let's just jump down onto the Fiddle yard. And yes, I said it was clean and it might not look like it, but let's put the lights on. And yes, that's part of the bowling alley stored there just at the moment because the space I was storing it before is being used. And we also obviously have our Woodland Scenics track bed solution that we're going to put the track on when it's sitting under here. But let's just appreciate a couple of things. The power base system in this particular power super value pack comes with 5 meters of these shims to cover 5 meters of track for an incline or a decline. As a result, we needed to do a few bits of measurement. Before we come back to that, our incline is going to finish somewhere in this vicinity by the time it's come down. So from this point to the farthest point of the wall there is, and we've still got some point work to do, is about as much as I can be storing. So as I've talked about, we could be getting anywhere between 6 to 12 of these types of coaches and a locomotive stuck down one, or we could be getting several of these, or we could be getting 12 to 24 of these types of tankers or other type of freight or small sort of passenger coaches that we may have. And I'm not really planning on having much more than that because that's not really going to suit the layout. So in the DCC Concepts demonstration they'll show on the website about installing these power bases, they'll give you a demonstration that shows a locomotive pulling up several wagons behind it. And then that's before they've put the system in. And then after they've put it in and attached the magnet to the locomotive, you'll see it pulling nearly 3 times the amount of wagons behind it easily up that incline. Now, that's fantastic, and I like the idea about that, but I am not going to have that many coming up. And my incline is consistently between 2 to 3% on the incline, so it's not unreasonable. However, if we do end up with a little bit of a tricky locomotive or something a bit slippery getting on up there, it's nice to know we've got this system in place. So that shouldn't be a problem at all. But of course, it'll always be at the point that pretty much what you're seeing here, give or take an extra couple of carriages at the back, this is pretty much what you'd expect to be seeing sitting on the layout underneath, whether you see it in the intercity blue and silver, whether you're seeing some of the teaks for the Flying Scotsman sitting under there, different types of goods. Maybe you're seeing the tankers, maybe you're seeing our beautiful maroon and custard creams or whatever they call that particular color there. Whatever it could be, the whole idea is we've got a few down there that we can just bring up as we need and have a little bit of fun. So let's get on with what we're going to have to do regarding this power base system. Yeah, this is a pretty good camera angle. I can explain what I need here. So I've ended up with 2 packets of these Super Value Pack power base systems. And you're looking in Australia at probably about $50 a packet. So with freight, $100 for what I'm holding in my hand, at least here. Now, 5 meters is what they're giving you per packet. That's a total of 10 meters I'm working out for the minute. So I just want to give you some rudimentary calculations here on how it's going to go. While the loop to the fiddle yard starts exactly here, because we've sort of pre-ballasted some of this track and all the rest, it's a little bit heartbreaking, but basically to here where this remote control is where the ballasting finishes, or where the golf box, tee box is pretty much where we've just got track, which I'm going to bring you in shortly to see. So literally from there, wrapping its way down and coming underneath, and then coming around the corner, and if we follow the tape on the ground, which again, roughly to about here is where it's all going to level up, where there's actually a join here in the benchwork. This gives us a total of 7.5 meters. So I certainly have enough. So I can certainly not be sparing with it. I'll certainly keep it reasonably well butted up together because I have it, why not? The other thing is this material, these shims can be cut with regular scissors. We'll get into that as we get the installation going. And welcome back to Noodle Knocker Junction. On an angle you don't see a great lot of. For those of you that don't know about this whole Noodle Knocker Junction, what's this all about? Now the thing is, we've got our golf scene happening here and our cricket club here and the putting just up in that corner. The whole idea is, in the unfortunate situation, while there is a junction here, as you may be able to, which you probably can't see, but the signal box is just behind you. The whole idea is there's some point work that lets us come down this line to go down to the fiddle yard. It derived its name because unfortunately, if you're in an open wagon that was traveling down, going off for a chop picnic somewhere, and someone has struck a cricket ball or the golf ball in the wrong direction, you could well take a strike to your noodle, being your head, and hence Noodle Knocker Junction. Well, here we are. Now, it's been a while since we've been down this end, so as you can see, we're finally going to get stuck into what's going on down here. But as you can see, the ballast is here, and I'm not too keen on lifting this up per se. However, if I'm going to have issues where I do need some magnets, and unlikely, because at this point I could just grab the train and give it a little hand if I needed to. But if I did, I can also just put something else magnetic down into it. I could put a series of little screws or something that I could just take my time drilling down into it and then painting or ballasting over or something. I could put an extra little rail just sort of laying on the inside, or a little piece of metal. It doesn't really matter. We'll deal with that if we need to. So as you can see, when you bring a coach down, it'll go down. And while it is a very fine line, that's only because we've never really officially put this into place and got it going. And that's basically what we're up to today. Now, that being said, I did glue this track down. Now, of course, at this point, if you go back earlier in my videos, you'll see I was using the Chadwick Railway method of using the copy decks, which to this date, I'm still not convinced about. However, one of the advantages of using such a product in this case is that when it comes to lifting it up, it's just a little bit of a gentle maneuver, and you can see it will start to lift. You'll just need to give it a little bit of encouragement. A little bit of a left and a right should be all we need. Just remembering we can just take this out to get a little bit of better access here. And the reason I say it is you might want to be using some sort of small paint scraper or something like that just to get in under, and just that little bit of leverage should get that track free again. So again, while I'm not happy about the copy decks, this is one of those scenarios where this may well work in your favor. However, the next thing is I'm somehow going to have to try and give it a bit of a clean underneath, or not. And certainly coming up any further, we're just going to cause a lot of problems. So we'll just focus on that for the moment. And the good news is we can disconnect from there, and we can actually lift the track out to try and give it, not that it needs much of a clean, but just to try and level it off as we put the shims down. As you can probably see, we did use our 4th radius set track, I'm pretty sure, for wrapping around, which is the calculation we originally started off with in the first track plan. And this section that you can certainly see here is a piece of flex track. that we've joined up accordingly, which is great because it does allow us to just give a little bit of play as needed to get this in. We're going to try and bring it out and really get this spot right now. The other thing is this isn't an easy bit to maintain and look after, get a vacuum cleaner and get track cleaning done and things like that. So we do want to be mindful to make sure we can get this done the best way possible without needing to spend too much time maintaining it. But, okay, well, let's pop this aside. Have a quick look here. The power-based system. So, as usual, of course, DCC Concepts, comprehensive instructions on what to do, and some excellent YouTube videos. They're always about the support, and that's evident just about everywhere you turn with any of their products. So comprehensive guide to be found at DCC Concepts, and there's the website. It's also worth noting they also make this in N scale as well, so something for everyone. Let's have a quick look here. So we've got various tiny screws here and the little drill bit as well for drilling this into your for the locomotive. Now, a couple of things just worth noting about this is that with the shims, there's two sides. There's the blue side and the silver side. This is the side you're going to glue down, and the blue bit is the side facing up, and this is just a film that you're going to peel off to reveal underneath. It's just during the installation. I'm not actually too sure what the film is to do with it other than keeping it. Have no idea. We've got wires in there if you're going to line it up for track feeders or put your own holes in. That is all up to you. So you can see we've got quite a few of those shims. And of course we have a magnet. And as you can see at the moment, it does have this little plastic coating around it. They do talk about snipping the box out so you can cut it out and leave little ends on it so that you could screw the actual plastic to it. There's a lot of advantage about doing that. One of the greatest things is that you are going to end up with these types of magnets picking up a lot of the metal ions and particles that can be around, and it's surprising what could be around. My solution to that is to get a series of these magnets, attach them to a wagon and pull them around the layout to initially pull up any of that loose metal type of stuff that's come from drilling into things, little fibers that have come through from pieces of metal and that, and then it's all dealt with. Then there's minimum impact that the magnets are going to end up dealing with. But as you can see, they're quite strong magnets and they're going to be attached to the locomotive. You can get smaller or bigger ones, and it doesn't have to be on all the locomotives. You may not need any on the locomotives, so it's a bit of a trial and error. But basically it's getting this down from the get-go, and if we need to look in the future at using magnets, so be it. But at least we've got the other half laid down and ready. So as you can see, there's plenty to go around, and once you start to, whoopsie daisy, lay them down, you'll create the structure as your points as your track work may start to curve around. Well, you can sort of facilitate that as necessary. Again, they don't have to be absolutely toward each other, just somewhere in that vicinity. Again, I've got so much that I can afford to be reasonably close up with them. It's not going to bother me at all. I also don't need to worry about any additional wiring or anything else that's going on like others are doing, because that's all going to be top fed on this particular section of the layout. So now it's just a matter of a bit of glue and getting these down onto the track bed or the cork. Wedding Night Secrets 101. This will be an absolute piece of cake. I just don't say anything. Yes, don't tell the wife about this one, but as you can see, a cake spreader worked quite well, and we're just smoothing it out here. That's what you're seeing me around, so I've got a nice level plate, because those shims can be a little bit wide, but I think as you can see, the Copydex does leave a little bit of a tacky residue that can be picked up, and that's pretty much what we're doing here. So we smooth it around. Now we're just taking, literally I've just decided to just use standard PVA glue on this, and it's almost a figure 8 that I paint on the bottom of it with the glue and then set it into place. We've still got a bit of movement and time, but of course once it's down, we're going to weight it down with the soda cans as we do with track laying. Then we're going to go around the other side, get that sorted a little bit under the board there, because I have to sort of get it in the right position. And again, we're going to glue it back down and weight it down. And as you can see here, the track is just loosely on top, but I did butt these up very, very close together, and I think it's quite well. And no, there are no issues regarding electricals. As we make our way underneath, here are the soda cans, just using the track to weight it down. Well, here we are, making reasonable progress at the moment. We're now coming through to here, but I did just want to point out for a minute, because I don't really have much footage and there was no point in me setting up the camera. I just put this light on, and these Milwaukee headset lamps are very, very useful. But hopefully you can see at the top here is a series of Coca-Cola cans that are basically running to where you did see me get through on the time-lapse footage. In hindsight, this is a bit of a tricky situation. I can't easily get my hands in, so I pretty much was putting the glue down and feeling for what I needed. It doesn't really matter if it's not right, because the plates are so wide that there's quite a bit of give or take. So you can see I'm now up to this section. Now this was all pre-corked. This was all pre-corked all the way down, and it's sitting in the right spot, so I can pretty much just follow it. But as I come down now, I can actually see it, and it's going to be a lot easier to keep carrying on. The downside is track cleaning could be a little problematic. I can still get my hands in. I think we're going to be okay, and you've got to appreciate where it is a bit tight under here. The top panel above actually lifts up to put your hands down. If you go back to the previous videos when we were building it, I don't really plan on having to do that. But the other thing I just wanted to pull you up and let you know is that once we've got that top piece of track in position, I'm going to just glue it down with a bit of that Copydex onto our power base. That way, if I ever do need to lift it up for any reason, it just sort of pops up quite easily. A few challenges, but we'll talk about that later. However, as we keep going down, the power base will of course be glued down. However, the track itself, as we've said, it's all going to be just our standard Hornby set track, is just going to be put into place and literally sitting there. I'm not even going to bother gluing it or fastening it down. I don't really see the point. It doesn't affect the magnets, that's underneath that. It can pull up, the tracks hold in position. We're going to carry on just fine. And if there's ever a problem I need to maintain it, it just unclips off. So with our loop starting literally just over here, it's wrapping around, coming around the back, making its way down, and we'll pick up the pieces here, which will bring us all the way down to nearly the join. But what I wanted to just point out, basically we're going to the second bracket in there. That is one packet then complete. So you can see that we really only have about 3.5 meters to then cover to come across. So we'll certainly have enough, and this is working out quite well. Also, they recommend you don't need to keep them together. In my instance, I'm going to keep them as close as I can, since there's no reason I shouldn't, and it should yield a very smooth transition for me. Not much to be said here, but here we are weighting it down as we're getting them into position, and now it's a matter of attaching the shims to our incline set that we've sort of roughly put into a position. And what I just did here was line them all up and just threw a laser down to follow a line. Again, doesn't need to be specific. Set track will just sit on top. We're not really going to fix this one down, but it's a bit of a process, but I think it looks good. Welcome back. As you can see, it's been 48 hours. We're still going to leave them for a minute, but I will start repurposing some of those soda cans, because we'll return back here and now start locking some line back down to let that set. So the plan is now we're only going to effectively glue down with the Copydex in case we need to ever move again. We're going to glue it down and pretty much just anchor it pretty much to where the crossing and or the signal is under there and hold it in place. The rest of the set track that runs underneath is just going to literally sit there in place. So we just take our Copydex glue here and we're just putting it into a few blobs on the track where needed to sort of hold it into position. We're not lathering it straight up. We still want to keep the connectivity going here. But you can see there's a lot of backwards and forwards with the coach just to make sure that we have got the clearance in the right spot, and this is where that's going to end up sitting for the minute. Minor little gaps between the track. I just needed to try and massage to join back together using some Gorilla Glue to hold it, pinch it on the ends. That's our effect on the environment. These are all the plastic ones that were on it, on those little metal shims as seen there. So as you can see, we've obviously laid it down. I'm just going to leave that track's just sitting there to get the weight on it, but they're all nice and dry now, so that's not the actual track that'll sit there. So we'll leave them at the moment. Well, that's a disaster. I didn't hit record, so I'll start again. What you missed was me taking everything off and unveiling this as it was all under the weights of the track and everything. But here we are. And my preferred beverage is actually Mountain Dew, but the Coca-Colas were just left over from Christmas and why I've been using them at the moment. But obviously you saw I had them here and I had it weighted down, and it was like that for just over a week. But you can see obviously now that it's done, these modules are designed with the lip on them so that I can just come in and sit them into place. And I suppose if I just bring it in a fraction closer, I did the same thing with the edging as well. So the whole idea is as you come to sit it on, that edging will cover up and sort of look quite seamless. So I think it wasn't too bad. So as I get you in a little bit closer now, you can pretty much see the format that I followed. It's, you know, reasonably straight to what I was chasing. I think it looks reasonably elegant in this scenario. And here are our magnificent shims for our DCC Concepts Power base. In my situation, since here's a piece of set track right now, this is it. It's going to sit in place. I would like to maybe clip the tracks together. I don't know at the moment. I think it's going to sit there quite comfortably. And of course, what I can also do is use our foam nails or pins, and I could literally just come along and tack in. Obviously, as we get into the lower section of the track, could be a little more challenging. I just really don't think we're going to need it when that track's actually sitting in place. And we're going to wrap this video up, but as you can see, where we come into Noodle Knocker Junction and come here, this part of the track is pretty flat and only starts to drop down as we sort of get going. So I just managed to shimmy these shims literally into position from here, which is basically where the incline's starting to happen. From this point up, you would have no problems. I am going to come back and put a sign here. I'm not sure what we're going to use, but it won't be a signal. Remember, we have a signal right here to tell us if you can or can't proceed. But I'll probably just put some sort of a sign indicating that this is sort of the holding point or something, that you can't really go any further than this. So, but if we come down, this was the bit of the track that already had the ballast on it. Am I going to come back and do some more ballasting? Probably, just around the corner here. I've just put a little bit of this cribbing on at the moment. We'll come back and clean that up, but that's pretty much what I think we're going to use just to hide the rest of the process here. I think as you can see, we've done quite well. A few howdy doodies because I had to come back and correct some joins there with the glue, but it's not too bad. Up to and including here, we're at a panic attack where we have our power feeds, and I thought, are they holding on to where it is? But the clearance is just right, and there are no shorts on the DCC system, so we're okay. You can see a few blobs of glue here and there, but all in all, not too bad as we do carry down. And I think you can see it does keep following all the way down. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a test. I've added an additional coach to what we're testing, as you saw in the footage as I went back and forth. And I guess I just wanted to show it to you to show you the sort of clearance that we're able to achieve. I mean, we don't have a lot of room here, but I think as you can see, it's not too bad. We've still got some good room to play with. And these are the longest coaches that I would be using. And even as we come around here in an area that can look quite tight, and I won't be able to get a good angle on it, we actually clear it because the body of the coach is actually sitting above there. It just looks a bit deceptive on the camera angle. So again, as you can see, even when we come around to the position here, and that looks quite close, and if we just flick that flash on for you now, you'll see that while it does look quite close, it does clear that nicely. I won't let go or they're going to fall all the way off. And when we're done, while we're building this, I always leave something just in the way in case something starts to roll. I like the idea that we've got it in now. We may never ever need this, but it's nice to know if we do, this isn't an easy thing to come back to and put on a layout once you've done all your ballasting and landscaping. So if you've been umming and ahhing about it, you could see I was able to obviously shuffle it in, as you saw in the footage here, getting it up with some existing ballast, and we'll tidy that up accordingly. But it would be an awfully frustrating process to have to go in if I needed to do all of this. I think another thing worth noting about these is that it is of a wider shape. So you can see once it's on the track, even like me where I was having to lay this blindly underneath because I couldn't quite see into the angle, as long as I could roughly get my finger into a line where I could feel the edge of the board, it was there. And by the time the track comes on, you can be pretty savage regarding where it ends up being. As long as that's somewhere, that magnet's going to grab onto it. So I think it's quite a forgiving product, and definitely worth checking out if you're going to be putting some inclinations or areas in that you know could be a bit problematic. This is definitely worth checking out. Just one real quick tip I'd like to point out, that obviously where you're going to have your power connection somewhere to the track, and if you've soldered some feeders at the bottom or you're using the little Peco joiners with the power connection on it, whatever you like, just make sure you've got a little bit of a gap where you're going to put the power base. The last thing you'd want to do, because it is metal, it is going to cause a short. I thought I had that problem just down there, but thankfully there was just enough of a clearance I left. And it might not seem like a big deal, but remember, the wires are attached to the track. So as I'm lowering it back into position, there was a little bit of a wiggle room. And here at Noodle Knocker Junction, it's not easy for me to get under and give the cords a little pull. There is a trapdoor located here under the cricket pitch. If you haven't seen that video, TADA, check that one out somewhere in this location. But it's not really designed for something as petty as this. So I just massaged it with a screwdriver. So that's it. Girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, you know what this is all about. Thank you so much for joining me in this one, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Stay safe. Toodles!